understand from the management of Alembic Pharma as to how their quarter was. The MD, Shaunak Amin, joins us on the show right now. Shaunak, hi, morning. Good to have you on ET now. Just going through your numbers, one understands that your US business has seen a growth of about almost 9%. We understand that it was propelled by new launches and increased volumes as well. But can we expect double-digit growth in the US in FY25 too?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. So the Q4 was significantly up in terms of volumes on the back of significant new launches. I think going forward, we don't usually give a guidance because you understand the volatility of the US markets. But listen, I think the trend lines, if you look at it, I think we're moving in the right direction. If you see the yearly versus the quarterly performance, I think this is our endeavor. I think that's the way we look at it.
India sales are flat. We have the numbers 3%. That is not what the industry growth rate is. Industry growth rate is very different.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
India sales. You reported a 3% uptick in India sales.
Yeah.
This is lower than the industry average.
Yeah. So I think Viva mentioned it, and I think it's on the back of a significant high base of a respiratory portfolio and our oral antibiotics portfolio, which is the reason why our represented market, which we had amazing, I think both 21, 22 and 22, 23 were significant outperformances in these two product segments for us. So it's more of a base correction this year for us rather than. So I think relative to market, we have outperformed in our product segments.
I'm assuming that all the COVID inventory losses, every adjustment in terms of COVID, that is completely out of the balance sheet now.
Yeah, so we didn't have any COVID adjustments per se as such, but like I said, I think the markets did have a significant ramp up on the base, especially for certain product categories. I don't know if it's directly linked to COVID, but it did happen. And I think it's just coming off that high base of 2 years. So we see more of a stabilization going forward. I think in the current year, we expect the base to be evened out. So I expect this year to be growth to be normal across the portfolio.
Shaunak, the other thing I want to understand, and I'm going to go back to the US geography now, what about the price erosion scenario in the US? Tell me what's the visibility like? Where do you think it's headed in the next 1 year?
Yeah, so I think, the price has bottomed out, and we've been saying this for the last year. I think there is still pressures on pricing from product to product. But I think generally the kind of pricing we saw over the last pricing erosion that we saw both in 22, 23 and early parts of 23, 24, I think we're a little bit behind that now. So, but that being said, there is some amount of price erosion, but the degree of that is significantly less, at least for our portfolio.
Any product launches have you planned for FY25 in the US?
So it's hard to comment on product launches, but I think our approval process continues. I think we have, we've got, seven approvals in the last year. And I think in the current quarter, we've got, and post the quarter, we've got 5 more approvals with 2 tentative approvals. So I think in terms of product filing and launches, I think that's the core focus of the organization. So that continues.
No, but which area where you think that you are close to that calendar timing of launch? Will anything be captured in FY25 purely in terms of a calendar or a planned launch?
So like I said, the US market's very dynamic and it's hard to comment on a launch till it actually gets launched. So we would refrain from getting into that, giving a forward guidance on those.
What you can perhaps share with us, and it's a fair question, which is that which are the drugs which could meaningfully move your earnings in next 12 to 18 months? I mean, every pharma company gives us not a timeline of launch, not the pricing of launch, that's dynamic, but you pretty much know, for example, what is the product pipeline of Cipla, what is the product pipeline of DRL, any big names which are due to be launched or could be launched or have potential to be launched in FY25?
Listen, honestly, I think going forward, the way we launch our products in the US, I think it's really hard to figure out, and we work on a portfolio approach. So I think we work on overall delivering a certain product, certain kind of volume and margin for a portfolio. It's really hard to narrow down on one big blockbuster that we have. I think like you said, we want each of our products to be profitable and to be sustainable. And from that point of view, I think it's really hard to comment on a singular launch at this point in time.
Okay. In the domestic market also, the competitive intensity is going higher. While the industry is growing, OTC and non-OTC drugs are also increasing. How do you see the competitive intensity in India moving for domestic pharma companies?
Yeah. So I think from the competitive intensity point of view, the sense we have is that the relative competitive intensity has been coming down relative to what it was a couple of years ago. So from that point of view, I think we're quite confident in terms of what we expect to deliver going forward in the India business. And I think we maintain that in the India business, we maintain a degree of outperformance to the overall market numbers for our represented markets and to deliver that.
All right. And I wanted to also get in a sense from you what the outlook is when it comes to the animal health segment. Do you think that the kind of growth momentum that you've registered, 26% growth, is looking at sustainable? And what, importantly, would be the factors at play here to drive that growth?
Yeah, so I think the last 3 years, I think animal healthcare has performed significantly for us. I think a lot of that is to do with our internal operations and execution abilities. And I think we continue to work on that. Going forward, we maintain, I mean, I can clearly say, I think at this degree of growth, we continue to maintain it. Last financial year, we did have an addition of capex or manpower expansion in the vet business. And I think we're quite confident to deliver the high double-digit numbers in vet, even for the coming year and going forward.
Because R&D spend, I guess, is expected to only inch up. And as of end of FY24, your net borrowing was already at 220 odd crore rupees.
Yes. So, I'm not, the first part of what you said, I couldn't hear, it's not coming through on the audio.
No, I just wanted to understand, where is it that you see your debt headed? Because I'm guessing
yeah.
R&D spends would only inch up from here.
So from a debt point of view, I think we're quite pragmatic on our, or rather we're quite comfortable with the levels of debt that we have. I think all things being normal, you can expect to see us to be at practically almost negligible debt levels going forward. And I think from that point of view, we're quite comfortable and we work quite hard to kind of get that in check. In terms of the R&D expenses, we have tapered down the R&D expenses this year in terms of managing versus the previous years, more from a product pipeline optimization point of view. I think going forward, I think we expect the R&D expenses to stay in and around this level as a percentage. So as at a overall value level, it will go up, but as a percentage, we broadly expect to stay in and around this number, which we had last year.
We've seen cycles in pharma play out. There was a generic cycle, there was a bulk drug cycle, there was a CDMO cycle. Where are we in terms of the pricing of cycle for the various subcategories in pharma? Whether it is bulk drug, whether it is injectable, whether it is CDMO or even CRO.
I mean, I completely don't understand the question. I mean, could you just put some color onto it, please?
There are a lot of cycles in pharma, right? There is a bulk drug cycle, there is a API cycle, there is a CDMO cycle.
Sure.
Where are the cycles within the pharma sector headed?
Yeah, so the cycles, what you talk about are based, especially if you're talking about global markets, I think they're based on things like product launches. And I think a lot of that drives where we are in the cycle, especially for the API and the US business. Honestly, I think the last 3 years, I think post-COVID, there was a significant price erosion on the generic side of things globally. I think some of that has tapered down. And I think going forward, I would say we are at a level where you can expect some kind of mild to moderate recovery going forward.
Okay, thank you for joining in. Good having you on board to understand a little bit more. That's the management of Alembic talking about.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.